Hey there, it's Derek here from Pacific Coast Auto in Japan. We're looking at a 1992 Toyota Sprinter Trueno GT Apex. That's right, the 8.6, the Hachiroku, turned into this. And you get a fantastic package. It is front-wheel drive, has a silver top 4AG engine. This one here has 59,000 original kilometers, which is so little for a car that's now 31 years old. And this is going to be a post-purchase review video where we'll check the condition of the car, we'll compare it to the auction inspection sheet, and overall, very cool and interesting cars. I've always loved these silver top versions, and then the next one, the AE 111, pardon me, is the black top engine version, which is even better, but this one has one of the only engines from Toyota that is a individual throttle body from factory. That's right, you get one throttle body per cylinder, and it's just amazing. This is what everybody wants in the aftermarket. The ITBs, the individual throttle bodies here in Japan called the Yonsuro, like 4 throttle, and it's incredible. Now I'm going to rev up the engine here, and there's a little bit of a sound coming from the engine, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. The sound only really shows up around 2,000 RPM, and after about 2,500, you don't hear it anymore. So I feel like it's some sort of a rattle in the engine. There is an exhaust leak, you're going to hear that. But that rattle could be an accessory, it could be a cover or something, it could be anything, and I don't really know. We could absolutely send it to a shop here in Japan to get diagnosed, or we can send it as is. So you, if you're the owner of this, tell us what you would like, and we will do so accordingly. Have a listen. So there's a little bit of like a resonance rattle, and I'm not sure exactly where it comes from. Now there also is a hunting idle issue, and this car had to be trailered to us instead of driven like they usually are because of the idle hunt. If you turn it on when it's cold, it likes to stumble and stall until you rev it up just a little bit. So it seems like it also has some sort of an issue with the idle control valve or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how that works on a 4 throttle. Again, we can absolutely get that checked out. Because it's such a low mileage car, have a look at this, authentic 59,000 original kilometers, there's some chance that these throttle bodies just got gummed up and you need to run it pretty hard in order to get something like that to be fixed. That would be best case scenario. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it is something to consider. 60,000 kilometers, it really is a very tiny amount of mileage for 30 years. That's 2,000 kilometers per year. That's a third of the average in Japan. And that's like, what, 8% of the average of North America? Anyways, looking at the car, the oil looks okay, but probably a good idea to get that changed. The coolant looks pretty bad, actually. I would open this, but it would volcano on me, and I'm not feeling that at the moment. But you can kind of see through there for the canister. It is a little bit brown. It's not muddy or contaminated looking whatsoever. Just looks like it's been in there for 25 plus years. From factory, you get the strut tower brace here, which is directly onto the firewall, which is even better than a standard strut to strut. And so that's very cool. The whole design of the car, I'm totally loving it. And it's really a shame that North America never got these. And I think part of the reason is because the 8.6 just wasn't that popular in North America. It was more popular in Canada, but it was still pretty rare there. And then the next one that came after that, the AE92, really didn't do well at all. So this one here, the next generation after the AE92. You could get these supercharged too. Or you could get the 92 supercharged. The 101 was the silver top, and then the 111 the black top. Let's go ahead and close the engine room. Okay, the hood's fairly heavy for a very lightweight car. I'm not sure of the actual weight of the car, but I'd be surprised if it's much higher than 1,000 kilograms. And loving the 90s styling of this. I particularly love the headlights and the front fascia. That is an aftermarket front lip on this one. Nonetheless, it has a lot of the look of the 200 series Celica, especially in the rounded proportions and in the rear. This is a trunk version of the car. There were hatchback versions of this generation. Maybe there weren't. I was only, 10 years old when this came out. So here's the auction inspection sheet. I'm going to quickly translate this for you. It's an auction grade 3.5 with an interior C. That's too harsh. It's really more like an interior B. Comes from 1992. It's a Sprinter Trueno is how you say it in Japanese. Trueno. GT Apex. In English, I just say Trueno. Some people claim that's wrong, but I do what I want. It's a 1600cc engine. I believe these on paper put out 160 horsepower is what Toyota was claiming. I think they're actually a little bit less than that, but the 4 throttle bodies, and it also has variable valve timing. Very cool little engine. Not quite as hot as the Honda B16 engines, but still getting there. And it was something Toyota was competing with the CRX, for example, with. Sales points here are aero parts and aftermarket wheels. This one doesn't have a recycle ticket. Interesting. The body is all very, very good. And then it says right rear fender has been replaced. Audio is missing, leaving a hole. Underside has surface rust. It's a medium amount of surface rust, but for a 30-plus-year-old car, it's really not bad at all. It says oil leak, but that's a very minor oil leak, and I didn't really see anything. Absolutely nothing drops down. It just needs to be cleaned. Nothing needs to be replaced. Very scratches and dents, and then the muffler is cracked, making a sound. So you might have heard that in terms of rattles and stuff when I was revving the engine. Windshield rock chip, interior cigarette burn, dirty, and wear. And then it says AU2 on the back fender here. I couldn't really find that dent. And then what's this? A2 on the side skirt. Well, not seeing a lot. A little bit right there. I love it when the inspector is being harsh on the car. You get the car expecting it to be in worse condition. You're like, wow, what a nice car. I like the low hood line of this, but like the long hood and then the very raked back windshield. These were at a time a very popular track car here in Japan. You're not seeing as many simply because of the age, but they do perform quite well on the track. Compared to a modern car, I'm really not too sure, but because of safety standards and creature comforts and things like that, you just don't see these sub 1,000-kilogram cars all that often anymore. And a factory 160 horsepower, if you believe that, in a 1,000-kilogram car can be nice and quick. It's not going to be super fast, especially not in a straight line, but these things were meant to carve the canyon roads, or the toge as they call them here in Japan. And I have had one of these, a 111 at one point, and they're fantastic. Right out of the box, with no suspension mods or anything, was incredibly fun to drive. Fairly soft, but suspension could absolutely change that. And a cool little car. I really like these small, sporty cars. Okay, so looking at some of the details, you got a really big headlight here. Usually you would see them cut it into 2 pieces to have the headlight and the fog light, but this is a single piece headlight with a projector in the middle. It's a little bit faded, so is the fog light down here. And that's an amber fog light and a marker light, 2 pieces in 1 piece of plastic. The front lip, like I said, is aftermarket. It doesn't completely fit with the lines of the body, but I think it's a period aero piece, and you really wouldn't be able to find any aero pieces for this car anymore. Trueno. So it's nice to have aero pieces that come from the era. You can feel like you're back in the 90s again. Okay, so windshield wipers are looking good, no fade on there, and the paint is nice and glossy basically everywhere on the car. Come down here, GT Apex Twin Cam 20. The 20 in reference for the amount of valves. I haven't even talked about that yet. It's 5 valves per cylinder. Usually on a 4-cylinder, like that, you're going to have 4 valves per cylinder. So a 4-cylinder will be a 16 valve. People have seen 16 valves everywhere. 20 valve is really something special. It's really only motorcycles and Audi, I guess, that does that nowadays. Toyota doesn't do any 20 valves anymore. It's just expensive. And if you're wondering, it's 3 valves intake and 2 valves exhaust. Got a little bit of a nick in the mirror there. The roof is looking good. A little bit of bird poop on there, but otherwise fine. It has a tiny scuff right here. and the remnants of a side bumper that used to be installed. I really like the look of the side skirts. If you remember the MR2, like the AW11 MR2, or the Corolla GTS in North America, which was the AE92, it had this side skirt that was kind of like a flat sheet and then little triangles front and aft. And then this one kind of emulates that in maybe a slicker, more streamlined look, but it still has that same kind of feel to it, and I really like it. Rear spoiler looks like it comes right off of a 200 series Celica. Like what year did those come out? In 92, maybe? 90? Yeah, they came out in 90. So the one piece with the triangles that come onto the fender. And then taillights, they are scratched quite a bit, so need to be polished. And I think you should be able to polish those up fairly easily. Especially this one, you can see a lot of scratches in it. Okay, dual exhaust. Kind of crazy for an economy sports car to have a dual exhaust because of extra costs and whatnot. You won't get a ton of benefit from it, but mostly it's just a looks thing. And looking from the back, I do like the proportions of it quite a bit. You're missing the Trueno badge in the back, which is a bit of a shame. You probably can find those on Yahoo Auctions, which is sort of like the Japanese version of eBay. Oh, and that dent. I've got a hiatus coming to try to run me over. Don't run me over. Thank you. See, everyone in Japan is so nice. And apparently there's supposed to be A2 on the back bumper and then an AU2 on the back fender. This is the fender that's been replaced, and it looks like your body lines are pretty good, but I'm not seeing that AU2. And I thought perhaps it's this one here, the scratch is there, but I think that's really the A2 on the bumper. A little bit of that not lining up, but I really don't have anything to worry about there. That's fantastic. What a cool car. I'm in love with your car. The person who owns this. It's definitely up my alley. We tried bidding on an AW11 recently, and it was a fantastic condition one. 2.5 million yen is what it sold for. We bid 2.2, thinking there's no way we're going to miss this. Can you believe that? $20,000 for a first generation MR2. Little chips right here. There's actually a couple on the other side as well. Going to the interior now, I'll actually show you the trunk first before anything. I gotta pop that trunk. So the trunk here is actually quite big considering the size of the car. This is bigger than a Supra's trunk, like a Mark IV Supra and a Mark III Supra. It's deeper and it's longer. You can see the fabric is kind of a little like loose down in there. And it just basically, the fabric just comes up like that. And down in here, you're missing your spare tire. But you can see there's no rust in there as a result, which is nice. And a little bit weird to put that back into position. It's a very thin material, very much like the Integra Type R or the DC2. And then no sound deadening material in this. And of course, no rust or anything in the sides. No signs. Like over here, the fender's been replaced, but everything here is looking all tidy and nice. Nothing looks poorly replaced by any means. Okay, doors are giant, just like the old 8.6, making it super duper easy to get into the car. Look at that. And then the seats, rather on the small side, but have reasonable bolstering. They look like they hold together better than the 8.6 seats. And the cigarette burn for the interior is on this driver's seat. I'll point it out in a second. I actually don't mind these seats. They're on the firm side, they're on the small side, but for my body shape, they totally work. Cigarette burn is right here. Could be a lot bigger, so it's nice that it's not. And I'll come back to the front in a second. Looks like he had a harness in here at some point. Back seats, yeah, typical of your, 70s, 80s, 90s JDM cars. You don't get a lot of leg room in here. Maybe marginally better. That's the full back position of the seat. So, of course, you can slide it further forward if you wanted. So, doable. We had an 8.6 when I had my first child, and it's very similar to these ones. You can actually, as a two-door coupe, have a car seat in the back, and it's not too terribly difficult because of the huge door size that you get. Mind you, in a parking lot, it can be a little bit difficult to open them all the way. That's not even open all the way. Actually, let me go over to the other side so that you can see this. These doors open remarkably wide, which is weird for such a long door. Check this out. It's not quite 90 degrees, but maybe 75 degrees. Wow. I don't know if that's interesting to anyone other than me, but it is a quirk of this car. Okay, very 90s seat pattern and interior liner pattern. And then floor mats say Toyota on them. It's a nice little touch. And quite like the pattern of the floor carpets. That's nice. Dashboard is nothing special, but in 1990 it would have been, sleek and swoopy. Has a little bit of a glue mark right there on it. And then 5-speed manual. They did adapt to a 6-speed later on, but the 5-speed's just fine. And then the AC, not cold, wasn't mentioned on the auction sheet. It's a bummer. And it's auto AC. Okay, audio has gone missing. E-brake works fine. Brakes work fine. Steering is good. Power folding mirrors work, but the driver's side one is a little on the noisy side. It goes... Steering wheel, I feel, is a little on the big side, but it's part of the charm of the car. The 8.6 had a big steering wheel too. This one has a lighter, steering wheel is a little bit lighter feeling. Maybe a little bit skinnier as well. You get 4 gauges there, which is kind of neat. And look at that, 59,000 original kilometers. Who does that? Especially a car that's so fun to drive. How could you resist? I wouldn't be able to. Aftermarket floor pedals on there. Okay, shift's fine. Let me just show you that. It's actually kind of like Lancer Evolution feeling in the way that it shifts. Okay. And speakers. You get speakers in this car. Wow. I feel like it's probably good up to 6 feet, but the seats, if you are bigger than 6 feet, you might want it to be able to go a little bit further back. Not terrible, but something to consider. Okay, well, it's time to shut down this video. Hope you enjoyed the review of a car that we don't see too often, and I kind of wish that we did see more of. I really like these older Toyotas, and I think a lot of people really should look into considering one. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a nice day.